360 shootout, despite all these bigger names, it's still a normal points night for you guys. It's not just show up points. First of all, what are your thoughts on that? And then what's your confidence going into it? Because right now it seems like you got the speed to possibly be right there.
First off, like, extremely grateful, right? The work's gone into to put this race together and give 360s this kind of money to race for, and that's really exciting. I think. That being said, I do tend to start to think, when we get, we come into this week, we'll have 360 shootout, and then the next week, I think it's the week before 360 nationals, which is always huge as well, right? And I think it's not the case this year, but I think in the right situation, right? Like, these 2 weeks could determine a 360 championship for sure. And it could simply be, depending on how you draw, right? If you draw dead last both these nights and you're neck and neck for a championship, like, and the guy you're racing for the championship draws the opposite, right? And gets to start up front and gets prime track condition to qualify. And depending upon how the track works out those 2 nights, like, it could make the draw those 2 nights really important, or could really potentially swing the championship, I think, in a potential year. So I definitely think with where this race is getting to, if it continues to be, what it is now, and that's the plan moving forward, like, at some point, I think considering, a show up point type situation for a race it's not our normally weekly race, right? Which is what our championship series is based around. Like, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. With position I'm in, like, I feel like it could only help me, right? Like, I could use the help, right, to be the guy on the good end of that this year based on where I'm at, if we're truly thinking about winning a championship. But that ultimately, I guess, doesn't change my opinion of, like, I think, when I think of racing for a track championship, it's your weekly race nights, right, throughout the year that build points to get there. And we have some now two, I think, very unique nights that get scattered within, another 13 or 14 other, or 12 other nights that could potentially sway a championship. At the end of the day, we're all racing under the same rules. We all have the same things to go accomplish when we hit the racetrack, and it is what it is. So yeah, I for sure don't focus on the points too much. I don't think. I think we're in a spot where we came to the year one to win some races, right? That's our goals. The championship, it'll be what it'll be. We're just going to show up and give it 100% every night. And when it comes to, how do we make decisions on the race car before an A main or whatever, put ourselves in position to win the race, not necessarily try and be conservative to make sure we don't screw something up. I think the night we won my first race, we definitely made decisions like, hey, we want to go try and win this thing. It wasn't a, hey, how do we make sure we're decent, but maybe we're not lights out. We basically made the decision of, like, nope, we're going for it. And I think where we're at as a race team right now, that's just kind of how we're operating, and the mentality we have.